to Travels with Alicia. I'm asked a lot, what kind of vacations or what places do I not recommend? And this is not some type of negative hype, and it's only my opinion, but I'm going to share places and types of vacations that just don't work for me or my family any longer. So let's get started. Number 1 is Disney World and Universal Studios in Florida. This first destination, I definitely speak from experience. I've been there at least 6 to 7 times, and therein lies the first problem. If we could only have the money back that we spent there over the years, I'll tell you, it's very expensive, and I understand. I mean, when you have young kids, there is a lot of excitement to take them to these highly marketed parks. When your kids watch the Disney Channel, these type of things are in front of them, and you get pulled into it, and it's exciting to go. And I will say, it's okay to go once, keep it short, pick the time when you think your kids will enjoy this experience the most. And for us, there was some Disney magic. It's just that, once is enough, and, I think you can do better and find better places to go. So here's why I think it's the worst and try to avoid it. One are the crowds and the lines. There's literally lines for everything. And as I said before, it's really expensive. It's hundreds of dollars to get into the park, to buy these passes. And the meals, it's very interesting, and I'll give you a tip, because the meals in the casual places are only like $1 or to $3 cheaper than going to get a beautiful sit-down meal. They're pretty smart. They know that most people just go in and try to get a burger or a kid's meal, and they sometimes charge $15, $18 for these. So definitely remember, and it's nice to take a break and sometimes get out of the heat and sit in those restaurants. So what else? I actually felt it was exhausting. And it actually feels very shallow compared to real adventures. So I had thought my kids were just too young to travel, but I was really wrong. They would have loved many of the places that I've now visited over the years. So my daughter and I recently went to Japan this year, and of course we loved it. But then I think back, she and her brother would have loved Japan as young kids, and I never would have thought to do this. We could have done it cheaper or equal to one of those Disney trips. So just going to put that out there for you. That would be my number 1 place I would try to avoid for vacations. So number 2 would be cruises. So a cruise can be interesting if you have a large group or a family reunion, because it makes the planning much easier. And that's like exactly why my family went on our first cruise. We had 3 generations leaving from New York City, and we went to the Bahamas on a Norwegian cruise line. And so there are some positives. The food was surprisingly great. Like, not just good, the food was great. We were blown away that they could put out so many meals at such, high quality. Also, the kids' clubs were really top notch. They had college students, I guess, who part of their semester they work on a ship, and they were really great with the kids. And the ratio of counselors to kids was crazy. It was like 1 counselor for every 2 to 3 kids. But our kids loved it, and loved it so much they didn't even want to go to meals with us. So another thing I will say before I get on to why it's the worst is another time it may be appropriate. So it's not appropriate for me, but if you're older and you really need assistance, a cruise could be a vacation that might work for you, because some of the cruise lines will actually help you from the airport right to your room on the ship. Like, they'll pick you up at the airport with your luggage, and they have help. They have special dietary meals if you have special restrictions, and they have medical facilities on board. So if you have that situation, then maybe the cruise isn't a bad idea. But here's why I think it is a bad idea, and why I put it on my list of one of the worst vacations. One is the crowds. So there's a new cruise ship. I think it's called Icon of the Seas, and it has about 7,000 people on it. I can't even imagine, because we lined up for everything, from shows to dinners to getting on and off the boat. I mean, it was kind of miserable. And what ends up happening is cruises are they cruise. They're not really good for seeing destinations. They're good for the actual just cruise experience. If you really are into the destinations, it can be terrible. I can explain, like when we got to the Bahamas, it took 2 hours from the time we left our room to the time we got to the beach. And then they announced, oh, we have to leave in 2 hours to get back on the boat. That was our entire experience in the Bahamas. 2 hours on the beach being told that they're going to be coming around and picking us up soon. So I can tell you, my husband was not happy. He wanted to stay there and just find his own way back home. But we made it work. Also, seasickness is a real thing. We had 20% of our family not feeling well for several days. We had medicine and we did everything preventative that we could, but the weather really impacts your travel much more than being on vacation on land. And the cruise lines can cancel, stop, change itineraries, and at a drop of a hat. They don't need permission. You sign away that they can change your trip whenever they need to, which is really bad if you had your heart set on one of those destinations. Another reason cruises are terrible are all the hidden costs. So sometimes you'll see this unbelievable price on a cruise and you'll say, wow, and even do a double take. I've done it. Then I remember that there's a lot of hidden costs. Any drinks, especially alcohol, I think they usually include tea or something, but even sodas I don't think are included in your price. So you have to pay for all your drinks, all your tours, tipping, and don't even get me started on the internet. You don't get free internet on a cruise ship. I don't even know what century they live in on these cruise ships. I think people really need to demand free unlimited Wi-Fi like the rest of the world. But anyway, they charge very large amounts for internet access. So anyway, there's a lot of hidden costs. And I see people posting tricks about how they sneak alcohol on board. And while they are very creative, I just think it's just not a great thing. I mean, that's not what I'd want to do on my vacation. I think you deserve better. So in our travels over the years, we have seen a lot of cruise ship people getting off ships, and we kind of watch them. They come through the towns, especially in Greece. We have spent many vacations in Greece, and we watch the crowds get off the ships and they pour into Mykonos. In their few hours in the town, they usually collect a bunch of souvenirs, walk around, and then by sunset, they're all gone. They're back on the cruise ship, eating in the cruise ship dining room, while we're enjoying the beautiful island restaurants without any of these crowds. Little did the cruisers know that on one of those trips, while they were walking around the crowded town, Lionel Richie was actually dancing his heart out at Namos Beach Club 15 minutes away while the DJ played his songs. And that's a real story. That happened right after we left Mykonos. So there are so many beautiful places on these islands that the cruise shippers don't even get to go to. So people tell me when they say they really like a cruise, it's because they want to be able to see lots of places. That's what they usually say to me. And I argue, did you really see the place and experience it? Because in my opinion, you'd be better off, for the example of Greece, go to Athens for 2 days and then just pick 2 islands and spend maybe 4 nights in each. This is really easy to plan. People in Greece speak English. It's not difficult. So I don't know. I don't think they're really getting to experience things, and I would definitely not pick a cruise for my vacation. So number 3 is actually submitted by my husband, a family vacation where everybody is in one house. And so I'll give you some reference. We go on a lot of large family vacations with, several generations, and it can be kind of a delusion. because I always envision renting a grand Tuscan villa or an English castle, and that we'd all be eating at long tables and playing games and having a wonderful time. But it's true, sometimes there's a lot of stress when people don't get their private downtime. And with these large homes, sometimes it's not like a hotel where every room's the same. So you have conflict on who gets what rooms and how things are going to work out. And it can really be bad because the reason I think it's bad is because how much I want it to work, and sometimes it just doesn't. You know, every family has their own quirkiness, and now that our children are growing, they have their plus ones, and so we even have, you know, more people, and it's not easy when, like, not everyone has the same views, and so you don't want to kind of go to a trip thinking, we hope we can get through this trip without someone getting in an argument. So for all of you that say to me, this is not a problem, I'm very envious. Good for you. What we've been able to do is we still go on big family vacations. We recently went to Williamsburg. We just go to a hotel and get 10 or 12 rooms, and it works out much better for us. So number 3 on my list is renting one large house for the entire family. Number 4, this would be a terrible vacation, is go to an area that has problems. You really need to do your research. There's areas with political unrest, immigration problems, even just over-tourism. So, for example, you know, everyone knows what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. These used to be amazing places to visit. Obviously, it's not the time to visit these places right now, and in some cases, you can't as U.S. citizens. Even Jamaica has been having a lot of violence lately, and that they have such great soul and a vibe in Jamaica, so it makes me sad that's on the list of a place that they're highly recommending that U.S. citizens not go. Also, homelessness, San Francisco and California just in general. You just sometimes need to steer away from. And these are places that people from outside the U.S. really want to go to. But I've heard a lot of people who've been, especially to San Francisco, and just said, seriously, just wait it out. I wouldn't go. Immigration. So this is just a hot topic, and I'm definitely just not going to talk about immigration, but I will say where there are problems with immigration, and it's not just the U.S., there are parts of Germany, parts of Italy, parts of Greece. It just can be overwhelming and not a time to be there on vacation. So again, I think you do need to do a little research to make sure that it's a good time to be on vacation if you're going somewhere. Also, you may know there's over-tourism in places like Venice, Bali, Amsterdam, and for a lot of times, some of them are charging large fees to be in their cities, or other times they're just shutting down tourists for periods of time just because it's, you know, kind of destroying the environment. And I think they did that at Maya Bay in Thailand, where that movie was filmed. I think they closed it for a couple years just because the fish had all disappeared, and, you know, over-tourism is really bad. So some people say, you know, I want to be helpful and I want to go to these areas. And my answer is that's different. That's not a vacation. And I think it's fantastic if you're a person who wants to help out in areas and when there's crisis. But just make sure that you go with organizations that will protect you while you're assisting others. So the last place or type of vacation that I'm going to bring up that I think is just kind of terrible are all-inclusives. And these are popular in the Caribbean, Mexico, and even many tourist areas in Europe. You can find some in the U.S. and other parts of the world. They're normally relatively cheap. You pay one price and it covers your food, usually 2 to 3 meals a day, your drinks, and your activities. People who like cruises sometimes like all-inclusives as well. I've been to several all-inclusives, and again, nice for a large group because it's easy planning. You don't have to plan dinners or anything like that. But it's okay for people who, if all you want to do is go sit on the beach and let the kids play in the pool. So that maybe would work, but other than that, I would not recommend a cruise. Another positive is that there are more things included in all-inclusives than cruises, such as your activities and the alcohol. But why it's the worst? One reason is just there's normally bad food. And I have even been to 5-star all-inclusives that talk about how wonderful the food is. It's not. I mean, I can guarantee I've been to more than one. It's usually very bland and low quality, and it may taste good on the first day, maybe the second, but you eventually will realize that if there's one kitchen in the back, that's basically serving all your restaurants. The rice in the Mexican restaurant is the exact same rice in the Asian restaurant, and the pasta is almost always mushy. Also, it's terrible because the locals just make so little money that work at these resorts. You know, on one hand, people think, oh, we're giving jobs, this is wonderful because the tourism helps them. But we have found that really they pay the people that work at these all-inclusives very little money, and they don't get to keep their tips in many cases. Usually people say they go there because they feel safer in an all-inclusive. And okay, maybe, but I think that is very rare. I know when we were in the Dominican Republic, we were told don't leave the resort. And we did see, as we were walking on the beach, there was a seafood restaurant very close, like over the border of our resort that we could kind of climb over. And it was right on the beach. And we did that. We went over there. It was the best meal of our whole trip. The locals were so friendly, and I guess depending where you are, I would definitely not go wandering into neighborhoods or towns, but that felt relatively safe, and it just made us feel, gosh, this was not really a good vacation. The best thing we did was actually leave and have that one meal. So, and I can also tell you, because I've traveled to Playa del Carmen a lot, and that's in Mexico, and there are a lot of all-inclusives in that area. And I have no idea why someone would want to go to these all-inclusives when Playa del Carmen has very inexpensive, beautiful condos with pools, and you have every restaurant at your fingertips at all price ranges. And some of these all-inclusives in Mexico, a few are close to the town, but some of them, they're like 10 to 15 minutes outside of the town. So when the people go to these all-inclusives, they don't even get to experience Playa del Carmen. These resorts kind of make it difficult to get into town. You can get a taxi, but it's never really encouraged. They do sell a lot of tours because they make money on those tours. So they will definitely have tours to take you to the cenotes or to shows and things like that. But just be aware there's so much more outside of the all-inclusives. And I recommend staying away from them as much as you can. So thanks for listening. I hope I wasn't too harsh. I want people to trust their ability to plan travel and not lean towards these easier, but definitely less satisfying experiences. For example, 9 out of 10 people who told me they love going to Disney World had never, ever traveled outside the U.S. So I encourage them, and I encourage you to give broader travel a try. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more Travels with Alicia. In the next episode, I will share with you my favorite travel destinations.